Hi guys, it's Jenny here, and I wanted to make another short video. My last video was talking about the importance of homeostasis within our body, and I still want to talk a little bit about homeostasis again, but just to narrow it in on a few different systems that play a huge role in our body. We're going to talk about blood, our immune system, the lymphatic system, and skin, and break that down in a simple way so that you can kind of understand how they all can work together and why they're all really, really important for our body. So I love to break things down into simple analogies, and that can give us an easy visual, because sometimes learning this can be kind of overwhelming. So one of my favorite analogies is, we have an ecosystem within our body, and I talked about that last time a little bit, but now I want to talk about it in a little bit of a different view in our world that we live in. So one of the things that we know is we are constantly moving. This world is constantly moving. The weather is constantly moving. There's just a lot of movement, constant movement. People are moving and changing, and one easy way to think of this is transportation. We have airplanes and vehicles to get us to where we need to go. So could you imagine for a second if everything in our world stopped moving one day? That would be crazy. It would be chaos. Our cars wouldn't work and we couldn't get to work. Maybe even if we did get to work, the systems at our job site would not be functioning. The computers, and it would just throw everything off. Could you imagine if our seasons didn't change? All of this movement in our world is so important to our ecosystem and how we live and we thrive, and how they influence one another. So that is essentially the same thing within our body, how each different system in our body works together. And if one system were to stop moving, then it would greatly impact the rest of our body and other systems. So let's think about our internal ecosystem and the movement. Our inside of our body is constantly moving. And when I think of movement, one of the first things that I think about on the inside of my body is blood. It is constantly moving. I mean, we feel our heartbeat, we can feel our pulse, knowing that that is blood pulsing through our veins, and that there is a lot of fluid within our body. So the movement of fluid is actually essential for the cells in our body to live and thrive. They need the constant movement of fluids. And so blood, let's kind of talk about red blood cells for a second. So what red blood cells do is they transport oxygen from our lungs throughout our body, through the tissues of our body, and back. So that is important. So that movement alone is creating energy in our body. So energy, giving us energy, is going to make us want to move. It's going to, we're going to have energy to be active, maybe enough energy to want to work out at the gym, go for a run, be able to go to work and do our job. That kind of energy is very important to us. And if we don't have that energy, what happens is we become anemic. If the red blood through our body slows down or loses the momentum, then we get really tired. We're exhausted. Maybe the color of our skin isn't as has its vibrant color. Maybe we look pale, and that is being anemic, which is often what we refer to as being also deficient in iron. So iron is a very important essential nutrient that gives the oxygen the ability to flow through the body and give us energy. So that is why red blood cells are so important. There's other elements to blood as well, as far as plasma and the white blood cells, and they play a really big role with the immunity of our body because they provide antibodies to help, prevent illnesses. So whenever there's a foreign invader that comes into our body, such as a virus, bacteria, and it could be any type of foreign invader, a toxin, an allergen, something that we could be allergic to. What they do is we have antibodies, but the white blood cells has a cell called T cell. And what that T cell can do is attach itself to that foreign invader and produce something called cytotoxin. And that helps zap and kill the foreign invader so that it doesn't harm us. So that is why, white blood cells and plasma plays a big important role in the immunity of our body. Another important role is the lymphatic system. So that's going back to talking about there's so much fluid moving within our body, and the lymphatic system is working with our circulatory system. And what it does is it removes waste and toxins from our body. And making sure that, all these toxins that we can get from the environment and from the foods that we eat is also getting flushed out in our lymphatic system. And if our lymphatic system wasn't working as well, going back and thinking about our red blood cells, if they slow down, what happens? Well, if our lymphatic system slows down, then we can also experience backup of toxins, and also we could experience edema because the lymphatic system is constantly moving fluid through our body and filtering it. So that could create edema, which is fluid retention, swelling within a certain area of our body. So another important aspect of our body that I want to talk about is our skin. And the skin is really, really interesting because here's a different way to think about skin. Can you imagine that it's kind of like a window into our body? The skin, they say, can be a window into our body because it is the first indication that tells us visually that something may be off in our body. Going back when we were talking about being anemic, our skin would be pale in color, and that is a first sign that our red blood isn't flowing as much. Maybe there's not enough oxygen in our blood, so we're becoming anemic. Our skin can get rashes and hives. That can be an indication that something within our body we're allergic to, and it's coming out through our skin. If we have an unhealthy gut flora, then we could have psoriasis, we could have eczema, and it shows up on our skin. So our skin is kind of like a tell-all to what's going on, within our body. Maybe the toxins aren't getting flushed out, or, we have taken in something that we are allergic to. So our skin is going to let us know just by looking down and seeing something different on our skin is an indication that something isn't quite right, and that's a good signal that we need to pay attention and see what's happening on the inside of our body. So a couple of foods that I want to talk about that can help with these systems is there's an interesting thing with foods and their relationship to different organs within our body or systems within our body is they can actually look like what they help in our body. So a great example of this is red meat. So we've heard red meat is really good to give us iron for our body. The rich color of the red meat. Another great example is the vegetable beets. So if you've ever really looked at a beet, they're really beautiful. They have this vibrant, they're not red, but a very vibrant color of fuchsia, and they're kind of shaped like a heart. So that's a great indication that beets are great for our blood. They're good for our heart. Some other lentils are good for iron. If you look at them very closely, they can kind of look like little red blood cells. They're good for our blood. Skin, if you look at a salmon, a fish, it has scales on it. And our skin has scales. If you were to take a microscope and really look at our skin, you would see scaly skin cells. So that's great to know that, fish is high in fatty acids, which is great for our skin. So these are some examples of some foods that we can eat, how to pay attention to our foods, and kind of what they look like. And if you can find a comparison, oftentimes it's going to help that area in our body. So this video is showing you, how all these systems can work together. Our lymphatic system, our blood directly work very closely together with our immune system, and how our skin can be a window into our body and different foods, and how different foods can relate to different organs within our body to help provide nutrients and support to those different areas. So I hope that you took something valuable from this. If you have any questions, you can send me a message, and I hope that you have a great evening. Thank you.